This is NR2003 Predicts. Using constantly updating ratings, we determine where Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series drivers will place at any given track any given week. Standard disclaimer, this video is for entertainment purposes only, using the process of artificial intelligence, and should not be used in the process of gambling. So here's how it works. We update drivers' ratings week by week as we go throughout the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series schedule. We run a 100% simulation with normal tire wear and fuel consumption. Qualifying results match what the drivers actually ran in real life. Because qualifying data can't be arranged at the same time as forcing cautions, stages will not be enforced throughout these races. And weather used reflects the real-time data based on the actual start time of the race. Joey Logano and Kyle Busch make up a front row on a field set by owners' points, green flag flying at Daytona. Penske teammates Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski lined up front to back from one another. They're going to get the early push off turn 1 and 2, get up in front of Kyle Busch, and try to lead this line around. Martin Truex Jr. making a push to the bottom lane with help from Chase Elliott. And it looks like they're going to get underneath Keselowski, but Logano retains the lead and gets down to the bottom line. He's going to put the block on the 19 car. 160 lap race. Lap 1's going to go to Logano, or at least it looks like it's going to Martin Truex Jr. on the inside, looking to make a push. And just as we've been watching these last 4 weeks, rain is in the forecast. They could be racing to halfway. Martin Truex Jr. is hoping that if that does in fact happen, he'll be out front, because he has never been victorious at this racetrack. He's finished runner-up twice, one of them being in this race last season, losing to his current teammate Erik Jones, and once in the 2016 Daytona 500 to his also now teammate Denny Hamlin. Alex Bowman, last week's winner at Chicagoland, big breakthrough for his first career victory, and he's found his way out to the front of the field, although he's going to be passed up by a couple of SHR cars as this pack is unrelenting. Here's Erik Jones, who won this race last season. He's going to the bottom line and trying to push Daniel Suarez up to the front. Both these guys were JGR rookies just a couple of seasons ago, and they found their different career paths. Jones staying at JGR, while Suarez has gone over to Stewart-Haas. Here's Denny Hamlin, who won the Daytona 500 this season, became a 2-time winner of that race, and he is also on the bottom line trying to work his way up into the top 10 as the pack is sort of shuffling out. Austin Dillon, the winner of the 2018 Daytona 500, is one of the best average finish guys in the field. He has got a 13.58 average finish across 12 races. Has finished in the top 10 7 of those times. Clint Bowyer, if you go a little bit further back, he's got a 16.19 average finish in 27 races, 12 top 10s, but he's hanging back a little bit in the field. He's trying to keep himself out of harm's way at the moment. Jimmy Johnson's got the most victories among active drivers at this racetrack, 3 in total, 2 of them being Daytona 500s. He swept the year in 2013, so he's also a little bit lagging back as the middle of the pack is kind of on single file. They're trying to find their way around. Kevin Harvick is the 2-time winner at this racetrack, Daytona 500 in 2007 and the July race in 2010. He's up here at the front, being passed up by Denny Hamlin. You got Matt Benedetto down there as well. He had a great run here in the February race. Joey Logano, one of the Daytona 500 winners in the field. He's a little bit further back in the pack, trying to see if he can work his way to the inside of Ryan Preece and maybe get to that preferred line. You can see they're single file up at the top lane, though some of the guys at the front are trying to switch lanes. Kurt Busch, another Daytona 500 winner, won it a couple years back, drafting off his brother Kyle, who is yet to win Daytona 500. He has a July win, though. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., we know that he is always a threat when he comes to a super speedway. Was able to grab a July win a couple years ago, working on that outside lane, and there is Kurt's brother Kyle. His win here at Daytona came quite a while ago. That was in July of 2008. So he's got quite a winless streak at this racetrack. He's going to see if he can finally break through tonight. Riding on board the 6 of Ryan Newman. He's the 2008 Daytona 500 winner. And obviously, he is on the playoff cut line, or at least one of those contenders that's trying to find their way in. He's currently trapped on the outside line. Here's someone you might have forgotten as won at Daytona, David Reagan. He won back here in 2011. That was with Roush Fenway Racing. Now with Front Row Motorsports, he is trying to find his way back to victory lane. His 2 career victories have come on superspeedways, one here and one at Talladega. Eric Almirola, he's also a winner here at Daytona, and it could have been 2 if it weren't for that 2018 Daytona 500, but we are talking about the 2014 July race that was range shortened, and when he was driving with Richard Petty Motorsports and was able to grab that victory, the first in his career. Gonna see what he can do with SHR to get back to victory lane this season. Brad Keselowski also has a July victory here. That was in 2016. He's doing a little bit of trailing himself. Let's head it back up to the front of the field, where one of the cars that lost the draft, that's the 52 of JJ Yaley, is going to be lapped up right here by Ryan Blaney. Aggressive move to the outside, and he's able to get around the 52 while no one else in the pack is. However, I think that Blaney will be so far out in front that everyone will catch back up to him. William Byron, we're taking a look at him. We saw Keselowski, and those two had a little bit of a tangle during practice that brought up a little bit of controversy about how aggressive is too aggressive on blocking and whether or not to do it in practice. Well, Byron, I think, has gotten the message, and we're going to see how it resonates with the rest of the field as we see green flag pit stops are going to take place right here. A little bit of a pack with Kyle Larson leading the way. Another pack on the next lap. Ryan Newman stays out, along with a couple of RCR guys. And when they come off of pit lane and they cycle out, Ryan Newman actually going to have the lead. But here comes Parker Kligerman on the inside, and he is going to take the lead, actually. What a run out of that Gaunt Brothers racing machine, as he's not going to be completely in the clear as there's a big pack behind him trying to catch back up to him. We're riding on board Matt Benedetto, who had a great run here at the beginning of the season, and it did not turn out his way. He ended up leading 49 laps. That was the most in the field before he got taken out in the big one. Going to see if he can redeem himself today. We've got a little bit of a pack that's further back from the main pack at the lead. You can see some heavy hitters like Suarez, Bowman, Truex Jr., Logano. They're all kind of caught in this pack away from the lead. And there's problems for Clint Boyer as this is him getting lapped right now. Apparently he ran into Ty Dillon on pit lane, and Ty Dillon might have ran into someone else. I believe it might have been Bowman. But Boyer got a bigger hit than Dillon did, and that is going to really hurt his race car, but they're going to stay green, and they're going to try to keep Boyer out on the track and try to complete as many laps as they can, hoping for a big one. Here's Ryan Newman now at the lead with that pack kind of broken out from Boyer being around. Newman's one of those guys that are under the cut line, as is Paul Menard. Menard's a little bit further back in the playoff contention. It's going to be a little difficult for him to make up the points. Eric Jones, though, he could potentially make up the points if he can get a good finish tonight. And he has to catch up with a couple of guys. Looks like he's getting his draft back and really sucking up to the people in front of him. Here's another case of losing the draft. Kurt Busch, Kevin Harvick, Jimmy Johnson, Brad Keselowski, they're all far away from any significant pack, and they are trying to draft off each other, although a little bit of non-teamwork there as they all split up. But they are not going to be able to catch back up at this rate, and it looks like Truex Jr., Bowman, Suarez, and LaJoie, they're also having some problems getting hooked up as well. As you can see, there goes one of the big packs, and they're kind of falling away from it. Going back to the head of the field, William Byron leading, Chase Elliott in second. Hendrick Motorsports has been really dominant in qualifying here. Won the last 5 poles heading into this race at Daytona, but because they said by owner points it went to Logano, so that streak was broken. Trying to see if they can find that speed in the race where it really matters. Eric Jones now making his way to the front, the winner of this race last season and in a precarious spot in playoffs. He's working his way to the front. Great run by the 20 car. Also putting up a great run is Chris Buescher, 22nd in points. He's had terrible superspeedway runs this season, but last year in this race he finished 5th in this 37 car. I'm going to try to see if he can work his way to the front as well as he goes underneath his teammate Ryan Preece. Kyle Larson trying to work his way to the front. Last time we were at a superspeedway, Larson was catching some air, and he's got a little bit of experience doing it here as well, referring back to a Xfinity race in 2013, but He's clearly trying to put up a good performance, and he had a 7th place here in February. A little bit of pit stops going on. Saw Kligerman and Truex coming down. There's a little bit of a bigger pack a lap later, and then we'll see some more coming down. So everyone's coming down for the green flag pit stops at different times, but trying to stay with at least one person to make sure they get a drafting partner. And we see when the cycle comes out, it's BJ McLeod at the front. This is very interesting. We got a 4-car breakaway from anyone else really in sight. McLeod might have used some pit strategy there to try to get himself out in front and get some drafting partners. Meanwhile, we see Justin Haley here in the 77. He had a decent run going for him at Talladega. That was his Cup debut, and he ran okay, but got caught up in an accident, and it looks like it's going to happen here as well. Parker Kligerman bottoms out on the bottom lane, collects Haley as well as Joey Gase, and David Reagan piles in there late. So what a bad break for Haley and everyone else involved in that one. Riding on board David Reagan as he watches this one unfold. Oh, and he actually made contact with Haley, who was coming down the racetrack first and then plowed into Kligerman, so a double hit for Reagan. That's probably going to take him out of the race. So that's our first caution of the night, and they will restart. BJ McLeod did come down for a pit stop, but it was fuel only, so he's able to keep his position. However, he's got some lapped cars trying to take away his lane, and it looks like that's going to push him to the outside as Almirola and possibly to Matt Benedetto trying to work his way back up to the lead. And the 51 now going to fade back on that outside line, but Almirola now out in front as Benedetto tries to find his way back to leading some laps with Ryan Preece just behind him. Byron has fallen away from the lead draft as well as Harvick. They might have gotten held up by one of the cars that was damaged, and that has really been detrimental to these race cars who are trying to get some good runs going, especially for Byron, who's still not confirmed into the playoffs. Michael McDowell is one of the drivers you watch out for when you come to a super speedway, just because he puts up a lot of points. He's really decent at these super speedways. Over the course of his career, he's put up 6 top 10s in 16 races with multiple organizations. He's a driver that can really push it up front, even if he hasn't been able to get a victory. Brendan Gaughan, the driver that we typically now see only at the super speedways for Beard Motorsports, he is pushing his way up toward the front of the field. We've also got Paul Menard. He's in a bit of a tricky situation when it comes to points. He is also trying to find his way to the front, trying to draft off some of the other Fords. Justin Haley, he's still on the racetrack, and we saw the hit that he took, but he is definitely going to slow down the rest of the field with the damage he has to his back end, so that might have been why Byron and Harvick fell off the draft. He might have been the one that caused that. We see Daniel Hemrick up here, and he is one of those drivers really trying to make a name for himself. He did not have a great Daytona race in February, but he did have a 5th place finish at Talladega, which shows that he can really stay in these drafts. And RCR tends to be strong at the super speedways. He had his teammate Austin Dillon 14th in that Talladega race, and he didn't finish too far back in the Daytona race either. Here comes Ryan Preece. He's up here in this lead draft and trying to make a move on Ryan Blaney, unable to make it happen. Corey LaJoie out in front. How about that for a story? His best finish here is an 11th with BK Racing back in July. Looking a little bit further back, it looks like we have another separation in the pack, and this is not even the pack that's behind the lead group. Eric Jones is trying to lead this group around, and there is LaJoie, as we were mentioning. He has a great run going for him. He has 5 starts at this racetrack, and as we mentioned, 11th is his best finish, as it is at Talladega, and those are both his best tracks on average finish. Makes sense considering he hasn't been in the best equipment, and those super speedway tracks tend to be some equalizers, but he still lacks a top 10 in his career. Trying to see if he can get it done today. Bubba Wallace, he was a storyline in the 2018 Daytona 500, finishing runner-up. He's trying to stay within this decent group right here that's running behind the lead pack. And here is William Byron and Kevin Harvick being caught up to by the lead group. The 4 and the 24 kind of hooked up together, but they weren't fast enough to draft the way that these leaders are, but they're going to stay in that pack now. Meanwhile, here comes Denny Hamlin. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. really fast up on Corey LaJoie, who got held up by Justin Haley. 77 once again getting in the way as he just tries to limp around. But that's going to condense the field once again. However, we're going to see some green flag pit stops, so that might shuffle things up once again. DeBenedetto, LaJoie come down, along with a few other cars. Here comes Preece, Stenhouse. Everyone's going to pit on different laps once again. Looks like Brendan Gaughan's going to be one of the last ones to come down to pit lane. Seems like a couple laps later. When we cycle back out, it's Stenhouse Jr. out in front. He's got a little bit of a gap on the pack, so those guys are going to catch up to him quickly. And here comes Daniel Hemrick and Daniel Suarez up on the bottom line. Here's another driver we want to take a look at, Matt Tifft. He's staying up here with this lead pack, and clearly the bad season he's been having hasn't been made any better with the Super Speedway runs. 36th and 37th his runs at Daytona and Talladega. However, right now he's up here trying to contend for a top 10, which would be a great breakthrough for that driver. Meanwhile, as we pay attention to the cut line on the playoffs, Austin Dillon, Ryan Newman, they are staying within earshot. This is the look from the back of the 10 car. He goes underneath the 37, who I believe might have just lost a lap, which is a bit of a shame for Buescher, who's having a great run earlier today. We see the gap between Eric Jones and the rest of the field, although Jones is in the pack as a few guys are going to his bottom. Back at the front is Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who has 2 career Cup victories, both coming at Super Speedways, one at Talladega, one at Daytona, both in 2017. Got him into the playoffs that season. Going to see some more separation as Clint Bowyer still limping around the racetrack. You can see there's quite a few guys that are lapped cars staying within this group, but this whole pack, everyone behind the lead group just sucks right up to the leaders, and this has created a bigger pack once again. And this is going to make things really interesting when it comes down to the end of this race. However, it looks like it might have separated once again. Just as we thought that we were going to have a big pack coming to the end, it looks like it's come back down to about a dozen or so cars, some of which are off of the lead lap. Keselowski included in that one. Ross Chastain, who won the Xfinity race last night. Justin Haley, one of those guys that was involved in the accident, came up second place. Here comes Martin Truex Jr. He's able to suck back up to this pack and gets really close up to Brad Keselowski. 3 wide situation up at the front. Chris Buescher is not on the lead lap, so it's between Paul Menard and Austin Dillon. Dillon should have the advantage here going into turn number 1. Gonna try to see if he can get to that bottom line if it has an opening. Jimmy Johnson putting up a great run here. The 3-time winner at this racetrack, trying to make it 4. Drafting off the back of Dillon. He's not ready to make a move just yet, but he's got to watch his mirrors and try to see if he can make blocks. However, Chastain not being any forgiving, trying to see if he can get his lap back. Haley once again going to become a roadblock, and there's a big gap between Austin Dillon and the rest of the field now, as it looks like Hammer gets around, and now it's 1-2 for RCR. Just a few laps remaining in this race. Corey LaJoie, he is still in contention in this one, trying to go to the underside of the 8 for the lead. Chastain out in front. That's a car that's about to go a lap down at least. He's not in contention for this one. RCR back to 1 and 2. Just 2 laps remaining in this race. Hemrick splits away from his teammate Dillon, goes to the inside line, and going to be followed by Jones. Hemrick just left his teammate hanging there as he tries to go for his first career Cup victory. However, now he slides back up in front of his teammate. But I think he's got to do a little bit of blocking on both lanes, but it's going to be too late. Eric Jones is already to his quarter panel and making a move to the inside. Jones won this race 1 year ago. Could he make it back-to-back in July races? Being pushed by Ryan Newman. 2 of these guys trying to go for a playoff spot. Jones got to throw the block on Newman as they come to the white flag. Does Newman try to make a move? He does not. They're going to draft all the way through the turn, but Truex Jr. to the bottom. Now it's JGR 1-2. Jones needs to win to get into the playoffs. Truex Jr. trying to go for more playoff points. He goes to the bottom, and he's going to take the bottom line draft. Side by side going into turn 3, and it's Truex Jr. the advantage going through the corner. He's got the push from Brendan Gaughan. Does Gaughan try to make a move and try to spoil the field? They're coming up on Clint Bowyer, the slow car. Truex Jr. goes to the bottom. Blocks Gaughan, and Martin Truex Jr. win number 5 on the season. You really thought that a super speedway was going to break up the JGR Penske dominance? Well, you thought wrong, as Martin Truex Jr. makes a last lap pass to get the victory. Here's the results. Truex Jr. with the victory. Gone and LaJoy side by side, a photo finish for second, but amazing runs either way. Paul Menard and Eric Jones will finish out the top 5, both RCR cars, as well as both Roush Fenway cars in the top 10. Matt DiBenedetto, after leading the most laps in the Daytona 500, he comes up in 11th place. A great run by Matt Tifft and Michael McDowell. Ryan Blaney, who was involved in the February Big One, recovers to finish 12th. Some former Daytona winners barely squeaking inside the top 20, including Almirola, Busch, and Johnson. Moving back a page, last week's winner, Alex Bowman, going to settle for 22nd. Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, also back here. They lost the draft, and they were just trying to finish out the race. Unfortunately, another caution never came, so they were relegated back here. Ross Chastain, the first car a lap down after winning the Xfinity race. And here's the guys that crashed out or had some poor days. Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, and William Byron among those that fell a lap down and were unable to keep up with the draft. That is it for this edition of NR2003 Predicts. We hope you enjoyed tonight's race, as long as it stays dry, and we will see you all next time.